fun. And it's been so interesting that everywhere I go, somebody brings up the word stewardship. Isn't it crazy when you have a focus on something, then you start seeing it everywhere? You might see it if you have a car that you're looking at buying, then you see it everywhere. If you see a color, you see it everywhere. Numbers, you can see it places. I mean, they pop up all the time. But with stewardship, I was actually at church yesterday and somebody brought up stewarding something. I was like, it's so funny that you're saying that. And then we got into a short but impactful talk on the weight, the gravity of stewarding things. And so many people don't even realize we have so much that we get to steward. And we've been talking about that over these last 29 days of all the different aspects that we get to steward. So we are on day 29. Our last one is tomorrow for day 30. It's crazy that it's come to an end, but it's definitely been fruitful. I feel I've been getting lots of really great comments and just things that people are learning and all the good stuff. So I'm glad that you are really taking so much out of that. So today we're talking about stewarding your expectations. This is a big one. This is a really big one. There's a lot of times we set expectations up and they fail us. They fail us, or we don't communicate those expectations to other people, and then we feel like those people failed us as well. And so being able to communicate expectations in a way that is grace filled, letting people know here's what I'm looking for, and at the same time, understanding some people may not meet those expectations. So I'm excited to dive in on that today because I have had a long journey with this one of basically expecting what I consider like my expectations, the excellence that I want to have out of other people. And I've been failed time and time and time again because I'm expecting me out of other people. So let's start with that. Have you ever had that instance where you expected you out of other people? Meaning you believe that this is the right way. You believe this is the only way. And when people don't meet that, like you get frustrated and it can be irritating, right? Here's what I have learned. You can't expect you out of other people. You can't expect your expectations to be met all the time because these people that you're expecting things from haven't had the same experiences that you've had, haven't gone through the same trial by fire, haven't gone through the same, getting the same revelations in the same way. Like there are so many pieces to that that you can't expect other people to believe and think the same way if they haven't gone through the same things that you have. And the minute I really grasped that, I heard that for many years, but when I actually grasped it, it was one of those where I was like, wow, okay, well, that means I get to have my expectations be voiced, but then leave room for flexibility and understand that if I'm expecting something from someone or an event or whatnot, things will happen. Not that we're going to speak ill over it, that it will come crashing down, but things will happen. And I expect things to happen that are not in my favor. So then I can set up the expectation of how are we going to respond after that. Now, this has been a long time coming, meaning I have failed at this so many times, so many times, and I still get to learn in many instances. And I have a lot of opportunities in different relationships, in my marriage and different things where I get to share expectations, but understand, you know what? These may be my expectations, but where can we meet in the middle? Not that I'm going to drop to not, wanting excellence, because me as a person, I want excellence in everything that I do. Everything. Doesn't mean that I give it, doesn't mean that it happens, but that is something that I expect from myself and that I want from other people. Because why would you want somebody who's going to ask less? Like, let's be honest. Why would you want somebody who's going to ask less? So that is what I've always strived to have. And I probably say strive purposefully, even though we shouldn't, because we shouldn't be striving at all. But I have. Let's just be honest here. So when you are stewarding those expectations of what you want, you have to be able to have excellence with grace. Excellence with grace. That is key. So to steward your expectations, you got to have excellence with grace. And grace is key because people and things will fail you. But when you have excellence with grace, it is going to be able to give that room of people will fail. They will. I have failed other people and I've had people be grace filled, and I have failed other people and I've had people be sharp and nasty. It just happens. I came from a family where my parents did the best they could and I love them. And I say what I'm about to say with all truth and love. It was 100% a performance mindset household. So there wasn't a lot of grace to be had. It was like you perform, you do your best. And if you don't, like there wasn't a ton of grace. And so therefore, I didn't grow up having grace for myself or anybody else. And when I got married, and I got married at 30 years old, I really didn't know anything about grace and except other than how to spell it. And my husband has taught me a lot of grace. And I'm very grateful for that. And my business partners have taught me a lot of grace. People will fail and they will come up short and it will happen, but we still get to love them where they are. Because when you set an expectation and you give that to somebody, or you set it for somebody, they're going to do the best they can with what they have. I firmly believe that. I firmly believe that. Now, sometimes that doesn't happen, but for the most part, I want to believe people are going to do the best with what they have. So even if it doesn't meet my expectations, it doesn't mean they didn't do their best. Are you hearing me? Just because it doesn't meet your expectations doesn't mean they're not doing their best. And that is still something that I have to swallow all the time, that I'm constantly like, okay, take a step back. Are they doing their best? Are doing everything they can? I want to believe that you are. I want to believe that you are because I choose to believe the best in people. That is always a goal of mine, hands down. Another thing when it comes to exuding or stewarding your expectations, rather, is love others even if they fail you. Love them anyways, even if they fail you. And it's not necessarily a failure because you could look at them, they didn't meet my expectations, they failed. They did the best they could. And that's all you can ask. You do the best you can, and that's all that you can ask. You literally can't ask people to do more. I was recently in a situation where somebody was requiring expectations that were unrealistic of friends of hers for an event. And I had to tell her flat out, I was like, look, like, there were things that I failed in her eyes, but I did the best that I could. But she wanted to see my expectations weren't met rather than I did the best that I could. And I thought that's what she wanted. And that was an ugly conversation. And we've had to do a lot of repairing and healing and hard conversations after that of, if you're going to value your expectations over the friendship, over the relationship, then this isn't for us. It's not for me anyways. I'm not going to do that. That is not somewhere where I'm at in my life. Now, maybe years ago, it could have been me. If you're not going to meet me at my level, you're out. Unfortunately, I was a little cutthroat like that. God has had to really breathe in gentleness and restoration and really dig down deep. Why did I come from that space? Because I was hurt, or because I was failed, or because I put this performance mindset on that I had to be the best. And if I wasn't, then it wasn't good enough. And it was just this downward spiral that the enemy gets us in. Am I the only one? I'm pretty sure I'm not, but I will say it, and it'll show not the best sides of me, but it'll show the redemption and healing that I've been able to have. And it's ongoing. Because there's a lot of times where I pull from some of those feelings of expectations. You failed me, therefore, like, well, how could you do that? Rather than, you know what? They're doing the best that they can. And I need to have more love, compassion, and grace. I need to. I get to. And that's something that it's been a lot of hard knock lessons, big time. So people will fail you. And are you going to choose the task over relationship? Are you going to choose your expectations over the relationship? Or not. So stewarding those expectations, understanding people that are for you are going to do their best. And even if you think they could have done better, check yourself, because maybe the season of life that they're in, they're doing the best that they can with what they have, even though you may have been able to see them do better in the past. Everybody goes through different ups and downs. And you can't bank on everything that you've seen in the past and bring that into the present. I hope somebody's hearing that, like for real. These are some hard lessons that I've learned. And you might be sitting here and being like, okay, I hear you. I'm listening. I'm hearing what you're saying. And you may not actually feel it and get it until you go through it. And you hurt somebody on the other end because you valued your expectations over the relationship, over seeing the person who is really there for you. Truly. So choosing relationships, choosing that person over the tasks at hand, over perfection, over your idea of what should be expected of them is most important. Type relationships in the comments if that's what you believe. If you believe relationships are more important, then type relationships. If you believe tasks are more important, type tasks. I mean, let's be honest. Don't just give the answer that you should feel like you should give because it's the right one. Where are you at? Like, for real. No judgment. Zero judgment from me. Zero judgment. Christine, you're so sweet. I'm going to bring this up. She says, you have so much wisdom, Molly. No, you communicate clearly. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I know that there are times where I don't communicate the best. You know, it's funny. My husband and I have had conversations where, you know, for me being an expert communicator for as long as I have been, sometimes when you're in the heat of it in marriage, like all that goes out the window. It goes out the window. And it's like, whoops, sorry. And then I get to learn, how can I communicate better? Here's a tip for you for when it comes to communication, which could also fall in line with expectations. How can I communicate so this person really hears what I'm saying? And understanding they may not get it, they may not receive, they may not agree, but communicate. And what I'm also learning is, even if I'm communicating something that is not maybe agreed upon or received, because we have different expectations, right? How can I let off the gas being like, okay, I was heard. One of my flaws, and I'm giving to you straight, is I want people to really see where I'm at, because a lot of thought, prayer, and wisdom has gone into this, but people may not. Then what are you going to do? Are you going to try to like beat it over them, or are you just going to like back up? And I'm in the learning stage of backing up. Not everybody's going to get it. There have been times where I have communicated expectations and different things to people, and I know there's some pearls in there. I know that came from wisdom. And people are just kind of like, no, no, no. And it's almost like casting your pearls before swine, like what scripture says. And it hurts because you're like, I know this is from wisdom. I know this is the right thing, but not everybody will agree. Well, just back up. Just back up. And just leave that there, because you are not the Holy Spirit to them. And getting in arguments and getting frustrated is not going to get anywhere for most people. Christine said relationships are more important. Yes, yes, yes. Ooh, Christine, I'm going to bring this up. I love this. She says we can share, but have to let God bring the revelation. Exactly. Exactly. And, you know, we talk about this. If you've been in business at all, you might hear this. It's like, you could talk about like the strategy, right? Everybody wants the strategy, and give somebody the strategy, and you can give it to them multiple times, but then they hear it from somebody else, and then the light bulb goes on. And then they're like, oh, it all made sense. Sometimes the people closest to you that want the best for you aren't going to be the people that give you the ding revelation. It's not going to be them. It's going to be somebody else that you hear it from. But you've likely heard it before, but it's the space that you're in. It's the tone that you have. You know, the setting has to almost be like darn near perfect for them to be able to receive. And that's okay. You just do the best you can. Like Christine said, share, but let God bring the revelation. Exactly. So in some of the hard conversations I've had with like stewarding your expectations, I'm being still healed of a performance mindset, because I've had that for 30 plus years, 34 really. Like I've really just started healing from that this year. I'm going to be straight up honest. I want to heal, and I want to rip that out. I really do, because it does not serve me. Doing things in excellence, wanting to be the best, wanting to give everything my best. I do love that part of that performance mindset, but what is it connected to? Is it because I want to be the best because Jesus didn't die for any less? Or is it because I have to prove something, right? Expectations most of the time have some of that in it too. So I hope that there's something here that you're grasping, because there is a lot when it comes to expectations, and a lot of us feel like we get failed because we don't see the bigger picture. And that has happened to me so many times, so many times. Now, yes, there are certain things that we want, but we don't always get what we want. But if we see the heart of the person or the thing behind it, that is most important, that they're going to do the very best that they can. And it still may fall short. I see it happen a lot in weddings. I see it happen a lot in big events. I see it happen a lot all the time. And, you know, as our company has put on very big events, I remember the first event, Activate, it's usually the name of our event in Kingdom Alliance. The first one we ever hosted, like my business partners put on a lot of events, way more than I ever have, and big ones. And I've never put on a very big one. And she's like, I expect people to fail. I expect people to fail. And then I have a plan A, B, C, D, E, like, and then if that runs out, we still figure it out. things will happen. How are you going to react and respond? And not all the time is it favorable. And when it's not favorable, back to that person and be humble enough to apologize. I know this is not the conversation that you probably wanted to hear at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Monday, but I'm giving it to you because I wish I heard more of this sooner. But to be honest, right now is perfect because if I were to hear it too soon, it wouldn't have landed. But I know for some people it is landing. Yes, Christine, you're so welcome. Being vulnerable does help people relate to each other 100%. Yes, Sarah, expectations are huge. And if we can have expectations of here's what I'm looking for, and if we do our best to get there, amazing. This is what I want. Communication is key. If you really want something, really want it, over communicate with that person of like, I want this more than anything else. Then great. Then that person will hopefully understand I'm going to do whatever I can to make that happen because I know it matters so much to you. But even if it doesn't, they did the best they can with what they had in that moment, and we give them grace. So share what you're picking up, share what you're learning in the chat. Love to be able to hear it. If you're watching the replay, put hashtag replay wherever you're listening to this. Thank you for listening. And we have one more day left together. So I can't wait to see you on day 30. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.